You're listening to Owner RX with Alan Pentz, the podcast for business owners who want to scale without sacrifice. Each episode delivers battle-tested strategies from the Owner RX Playbook Library, showing you exactly how to build systems that run without you. Here's your host, Alan Pentz.
Hey, we are back. Tonya
so
is back in the house.
Back in the house.
In lovely San Cugat, in her new house. How is the house? Is it okay?
It will be. It will be. You know, spaces are tight, but there's a lot of stairs, so that's keeping me tight, of course.
Right. The commander likes to keep it tight, doesn't he?
You know, up and down, up and down.
The commander, by the way, this is not a sexist remark. The commander is very tight himself. He is a marathon runner, right?
He was, yes. But he continues now that we're back on this side of the Atlantic. He's doing more biking, which was his first love, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, he was very much into cycling.
Well, excellent. So
stairs.
Up and down the stairs, baby. Put them in there. That way you can plummet to your death when you're older.
That's right. It's the first thing I thought of when we bought this house, actually.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's very
any
dark.
weak bones here, that's a broken hip right there.
All right, enough nonsense. What are we talking about today?
Well, you're going to have another course starting January 22nd, right? This will be the second cohort of AI tools. So
yes,
let's hear it.
Well, yeah, so I got talked into doing a second cohort of small business owners training on AI.
Who talked to you?
We had a couple of people who will remain nameless. Mm-hmm. I really didn't want to do it because the first one, it was great, but it was a lot of work, and it was like pulling teeth because getting everyone using the same tools and getting them, set up so they could even use them was really, really difficult. I tried to do too much in the course of the course. Mm-hmm. So I've now kind of scaled it correctly, and I redesigned it, and it's really cool. And I thought it was good for a podcast because it showed me what's going on for owners and what they need to do. And obviously, like, as I was doing the first course, things are changing too, right? So the capabilities that existed at the beginning of the course were different than the ones that existed at the end.
Just a matter of like 3 months.
Yeah. So with the introduction of skills from Claude, with the improvements, which I think are pretty seismic in the AI agent capabilities in Google and Microsoft, that really changed the game, right? So what I'm doing now is I think that there's like two parts of the course. One is what do owners themselves need to know, right? So I clearly am an early adopter and an eager adopter of AI.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm. But most people are not going to get where I am, right? 1% are going to do that. There's no, and by the way, even if they want to, most of them are running businesses day to day. I have the privilege of having stepped down from running my business so I can spend more time. So I think even if I were still running my own company, I wouldn't be where I am now, right?
Right.
So even with the aptitude and inclination to do it, I think most owners just don't have the time. So what I really have tried to do is start saying, what do the owners themselves need to do? Because I do think they have to do some of it. They have to get their hands dirty and get into the tech so that they can understand what they're being told and what they're buying or hiring on the other side, right? If you have no familiarity with marketing, you are going to get taken to the cleaners by a bunch of useless marketing companies. Happens every day. Most owners that happens like 5 times in a row, right? And what you need to do is go figure out what kind of marketing works at your company and go find people who are expert at that and know enough to know how to measure it, how to use it, blah, 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 or else you're just going to waste all your money, right? So that's same thing for AI. You got to know enough about what's out there and use it. You can't just be all conceptual, right? You need to know you need to have done it and seen it to really understand what it can do and what its limitations are. So the way I'm structuring the class now is the other thing I thought was last time I used a lot of sort of like, not generic examples, but like pretend examples. So like we did an exercise on how to do research, build a spreadsheet with AI, and then visualize, create like a web application with it. So we built like a taco truck map, and that's cool. Taught them all that stuff. But like now I'm trying to do it so that you build one product or one workflow across the entire course. And you learn like, okay, how do I use basic tools like Claude projects and, custom GPTs? How do I then maybe get those to orchestrate, into multi-agent workflows? How do I then maybe create a front end for that, or a back end, or like a web app associated with it? How do I, and then how do I do automation, like using something like Zapier maybe? So each week we kind of deal with one of those issues, and then you're putting that, like when it's time to do a web app, we'll use like Lovable and compare what it does to like Claude Code, and see how that integrates into your workflow or product that you're working on.
Are you able to use real examples, like real case?
Yeah. So first, before you come into the class, there's going to be a assessment, and I think it's part of it will be assessment before the class, and then in the first class we're going to do some more stuff where you basically inventory a lot of your workflows and your product ideas, so that you can select one real world case that you will actually have a working version of at the end of the course, right? But the other part of that that's cool is as you're doing that, by the way, when I'm trying to find your workflow, you inventory all your workflows. So as a result, the other thing we're doing week to week is building your AI transformation plan for your business. As you're taking the course, you're adding pieces to that plan, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to talk, like when we talk about chaining agents together and doing agent orchestration, then we're adding that component to your plan. And so here's my thing, is like at the end of the day, almost all businesses right now should be looking at the Microsoft, Google AI studios that exist and using them to start looking at because like once you're in that environment, you've already got your role-based permissions set up, you've got your security set up in those, and then you've got, they are building connectors to all the other software you use out there, right? So it's much more likely that some vendor is going, if you use some like payroll software, that they are going to have integrated with like Google or Microsoft than with you, right? So you get all that stuff working in their AI agent studios or whatever they call them. Google's is Vertex. Microsoft just changed the name. I can't remember what it is right now. So, when you build in there, it's going to be, you don't have to worry about the security and the role level access as much, right? There's still issues there, but you got to think through. But so I think that's, and it's become easier to build those, but I still don't think that owners know enough to, or have the time to learn enough to do it really, really well. But I can get them to the place where they know things like, hey, are we using antagonist agents to make sure that this is accurate? Are we looking at using multiple models, in some kind of like workflow where the models are checking each other? Or are we understanding like, oh, this is a kind of simple task, so we should be using an older model so that the token cost is a lot lower, right? Rather than the newest cutting edge model. Like for transcription, you don't need that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like understanding,
enough, right? You're getting them to a point to know enough to need to know what they need to know.
Right. To be an informed consumer, right? And then build your plan. And by the way, that's going to help you because exactly, you're like, hey, I want to build in Microsoft. I want to do this. I need to have this kind of person with these kind of skills, right? And you'll be ready to buy, to potentially buy. Now, the issue is going to be that these things have existed for like 2 months. So like there aren't a bunch of people who have done it before. So you're probably going to have to hire in someone who can learn. I mean, I think at this point, like if you hired a smart younger person and like, you're going to learn how to use Google Vertex and put this plan into place, like there's ways for them to learn that. And actually we might end up offering additional classes for like the implementer person in a company to build with these things. Because there isn't like a big experienced group of people who have done this because it hasn't existed. So I think that's probably going to be the best way people going forward is like really learning, like bringing someone in who's smart, willing to learn, and kind of putting them through a training thing and having them train on the, you know, what's available from Google. And to be honest, right now, like I do this using Claude Code and I'm doing it in English. It can tunnel into Google Vertex and it understands what's in there and helps me do it. Right. So it's not like you need someone to come in and knows code, right? They just need to know how to use a plain language Claude Code tool. Right. So that's where I'm hoping, you know, to take the classes to like, hey, you're going to build something real. You're going to understand why you would use Claude versus, or Anthropic's Claude versus OpenAI's ChatGPT models, or Codex, their coding tool, or Gemini, right, from Google. You understand the different costs of those, what they're good at. Like, hey, Google is, if you're going to do images, Google is where it's at. Like Gemini Nano Banana is what it's called, the model is called, is fantastic, right? It's way better than the others. And then like really understanding like something I talked about last week, we understand is like, why is Anthropic pulling away on the enterprise side? Like you should really be using Claude models for more sophisticated work, in all companies should. And why is that? And then understanding that their strategy is different too, because you can now use Anthropic models in Microsoft and Google, even though Google has its own model. They're still offering you access to Anthropic. So, and so just understanding all those differences.
So do you start the course off with an inventory of all the different tools? So
not an inventory of the tools, more of an inventory. No, we do it piece by piece because I think if you see all that up front, it's like too much stuff. So every week we kind of go through like a different aspect, like we learn about prompting and then there's tools involved with that. And then we learn about agents and there's tools involved with that. So we kind of learn about those as we go. But it is really important, you know, how I'm seeing things is that particularly for any knowledge work, and I would say even, look, I'm an investor in metal fabs and we're using AI to help on multiple fronts of that business, right? So any knowledge work involved in anything. So like, hey, maybe the press break isn't AI enabled, but all the analysis of what comes out of the press break can be, right? So quoting...
Metal fab and AI.
So everyone's using this. Yeah, everyone needs to use AI. So like, I think that this is a new way of doing work. It's a fundamental shift to going from being the person who does the work to the person who designs the systems and tools that do the work, and the person who designs the tools and systems that work on the tools and systems that do the work. So it's you're moving from this in the business to on the business and process improvement with AI. And it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of operating. And so it can't be something that's just like a blow off, like, oh, you know, like go figure out what's going on with this cloud thing, or it's like a fundamental shift that you've got to understand. And so we're going to start January 22nd. If anyone's interested, I'm taking applications up until the day. It's going to be, you can go to ownrx.com. There's a link to sign up, to the landing page to sign up.
Limited. How many spaces do you have?
15, I think, is what we capped it at. And then we'll start, I think that's a Thursday at noon Eastern, hour and a half session, six sessions over each week. going through the winter. So, and yeah, it'll be fun. Like we're all on the call together. We're building stuff together. There's a community around it, so you can like ask questions in between sessions. Yeah, it's been really fun. And like last time we had a lot of great outcomes. Like people built some tools that they're still using in their business and like really learned a lot about AI. So there's some good quotes from the first attendees in there. And we'll probably run these, going forward a few times a year.
I was going to say, before you know it, you might be running, you'll be planning the third.
That's right. Could be. Well, the other thing is I need to start figuring out this implementation course too. It's a little more complicated. Who's going to be in that and how? But I think the next level, the other thing I thought about is maybe out of this, we get to people who, you're going to come out of this with a plan for implementing AI, but then there's going to be people who really just want to fundamentally transform their business around this. And so maybe there's something where it's like advanced, like, hey, I want to like become an AI first company, or I want to build something in this vein. And that could be another potential class if people are interested in it. So we'll see like what comes out, but until then.
Very exciting. Sign up.
I think this is our last pod for the year too. So I think we're going to go on hiatus. There might be some greatest hits, but I'm going to be in South America for 2.5 weeks. So I will not be recording.
At high altitude, lightheaded.
That's right. I'm going to be counting alpaca, at high altitude. So Tonya, where will you be? In lovely San Cugat?
I will be here actually. And then going down to the Valencia region for another holiday. That's right after Christmas here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Can't complain.
Oh, well, have a lovely holiday.
All right. You as well. We'll look forward to seeing you when you're back.
Yes. And we'll be
hearing all the stories.
Excellent.
All
right. Talk soon.
You've been listening to Owner RX with Alan Pentz. Want to apply what you just learned? Try our AI business advisor at ownerrx.com. It has all the insights and lessons from this podcast, plus hundreds of playbooks, ready to solve your specific business challenges. Owner RX. Stop being the bottleneck. Start being the owner.